Hello, everybody. Good evening to everybody in the US or Canada or anywhere on the West, and good morning to everybody in New Zealand and Australia. My name is Jesse Bruner, and I'm really excited to be here and to share with you a painting tutorial. It's a little exercise for you to develop your painting skills using Gelish. So this is with Gelish Soak-Off Gel Polish and Artform Gel Paint. I'm going to give you guys a little bit to join, a couple moments. So before I start, I'm going to show you all the different colors I'm using. I have All the Queen's Bling, kind of a light lavender color, and a darker purple color, just me and my piano. Off the Grid, it's a nice dark brown color. And we have Arctic Freeze, which is white. And just to make leaves, I have Making Waves, and I have Lemonade in the Shade, so neon green and regular blue. I also have some Artform colors. So I'm going to be using white and black gel paint. Hello, everybody. Oh, awesome to see you here. So I have Essentials White and Black from Artform, and Essentials Blue and Neon Pink. So I want to show you how to make a nice purple with these colors. So this is the design. It's a rose. You can see you can do this in many different colors, but the idea behind this tutorial is to share with you the techniques. And using this technique, you can paint a lot of different things. So using the information, you can paint anything that you can draw, really, with this information. So hopefully you'll be able to watch this video a couple times and get a chance to practice. If you do practice the design, I'd love to see it. So I have the colors. You're also gonna need cleanser for practicing to clean your brush. Also gonna use Top It Off. I've got lint-free wipes. I've got a Dappen dish for my cleanser. The brushes I'm gonna use are the Micro Striper brush, so very fine 00 brush, and Mini Gel Striper. I also have the 7 Gel Square just for cleaning. I'm going to use this to dry wipe the color layer. So if you guys have any questions, you can post them as we go along. So I have my background color ready. I used Call My Blush. So this is just 2 coats of Call My Blush. And before I sketch on the surface, I'm going to take the 7 Square brush and just dry wipe the surface just to get rid of some of the sticky layer. So we don't want to completely remove the sticky layer, but we want to take away some of it so that we can draw on the surface without the surface running. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you guys can see me even with comments. Can you guys see everything okay and hear me okay? If you could let me know. So I'm just going to make a little palette for my colors. I just have a clear nail form. This is just me and my piano. So I got 2 purples, dark purple and a lighter purple. And this is Off the Grid. You can see it's a shadow color. And for some highlights, I have Arctic Freeze. And then some colors for leaves. One more. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. And as I'm working, I'm going to be diluting the color with Top It Off. So I'm going to put a little bit of Top It Off next to the colors. So I dilute them a little bit so that it's easier to blend them without any lines in the blending. So first I need to make a little color for sketching. So I'm going to take just me and my piano, just a drop of it. and mix it with Top It Off. Got my lint-free wipe. So I'm going to do the sketch with the micro striper brush. So I'm going to start by doing like a C shape, kind of a small, like a cup. So do two sides. So it's like part of a circle, but not closed all the way. And you can even have one side opening a little bit. So once we have this cup shape, now we need to connect this point here with this point in the center with kind of a curvy line. So we do on the left side and then one on the right side. And you want to leave a small space in between. So we're making this into two petals, and you want to leave this space. Once we have those two petals, now we're going to do a third one in between. So it's just a line along the top that's connecting to the first two petals here and here. And this line should be a little bit lower than these 2 points. So can you see? I'm going to flash cure this. So we're just going to flash cure for 5 seconds. And then once I have the center, and then I'm just going to add some petals around. So we just have to flash cure for 5 or 10 seconds. Now we're going to look at this distance and do, like in a 45-degree angle, another petal underneath this center cup. So it's like so if we look at this one as straight up and down more or less, we go at a 45-degree angle and we can add a petal on that side. And we'll go out to about there. Hello, Layla. Then we have one petal, then we'll do another one. So we want really fine lines. And again, this is the Just Me and My Piano mixed with Top It Off. So then this petal is connecting to the base here. So then if we start from here, we can do another petal going this direction. It goes a little bit off the nail tip, but that's okay. We can still do all the shadows for it, and it'll still be visible. Then we can do a petal in between these two. And then we can go around the top and just keep adding to the upper edge. So basically I'm looking at this distance, and then that's the distance that I'm creating from the center, all of these outer petals. Okay, so you see we have a sketch, and it's really light colored lines, but it'll be able to give us a guide for us to add our shadows. So once we have the sketch, we can cure it for 30 seconds in the 18G LED light. So now I'm going to switch to the mini gel striper, and I'm going to make a little bit of a shadow color. I'll start with the color that we used for sketching, and we're going to add a little bit of color to the center of the petals. So now each of the petals from the bottom, I'm going to color them in about 2/3 of the petal. So I can start with the center. So it's behind these two, the center petal. So go right up to the edge of these two with the color. And I'm going to color in this first color about 2/3 of the petal. So when I get to 2/3 from the top, I'm going to start fading it. Clean my brush and just blend a little bit. So just touch up and down on the border. Just going to make sure that the shadow goes all the way over to the edge of the second petal. So I'm going to flash cure. I always flash cure often in the beginning because you can see the first colors, the first color blocks are really big. And if we don't flash cure, they're going to run together. So in the first steps, you want to flash cure a lot. And then as you go on, as the shadowing gets smaller and smaller, you don't have to flash cure as often. So I have this petal with some color. Now I'm going to do the second petals that are part of the center. So I'm just adding color again to about 2/3 of the petal. Since we mix the color with Top It Off, it's really easy to blend. So it's pretty much blending automatically. So I just want to leave a little space free along the upper edge of the petals. So once I have these two set, just clean my brush. Right now I don't have anything on the brush. And then just touch the border. I'll flash cure that. So just about 10 seconds. Try to zoom in a little bit more. So now I'm going to work on the outer edge of the petals. So we're just doing the same thing, starting at the bottom of each petal and painting about 2/3 of it with the Just Me and My Piano mixed with Top It Off. So I just draw the shadow out to its shape, and then I touch to press the border in between. So as long as you're doing shadows on two separate petals and they're not going to run into each other, you don't have to flash cure. So I can just keep adding the shadow everywhere, and then I can do all the blending at once. So I just keep going around. So the first shadow color is really light. That way it makes it easy to blend. And then the shadows are going to get darker and darker as we go along. So I apply the color in a few places. I just take my brush and just get rid of the excess product on the back of my glove and then press up and down to blend. Make sure I stay in the camera. I just apply the color, clean my brush, and then press up and down to blend. And then I'm going to flash cure that before I do these next two petals along the top upper edge. All right, so now I have color in almost all the petals, so I just have two more, or one more left. So I just apply the color everywhere and then clean my brush, and then the technique for blending is just to press up and down. Press up and down right on the border. So now I have the first shadow everywhere in all the different petals. So now you can see we're going to do a second shadow that's smaller and darker than the first one. So while the first layer is curing, I'm just going to add a little bit more purple to my mix just to make it darker. But before I add the second shadow, I want to add a little bit more color to the petals. So I'm going to take all the Queen's Bling, mix it with Top It Off. And just add a little bit more color. And we don't have to add it everywhere. So I just place the color everywhere I need it, and then I clean off my brush, and I just press the borders to blend. Then we flash cure it. So all the curing time when I'm flash curing is just 10 or 15 seconds. So now I just need to add a second and a smaller shadow. So it's smaller and darker. So I'm still using the mini gel striper brush. And I'm going to go just in the same order, just to make it easier for you to follow along, but you can paint them in any order. So I just apply the color with my brush everywhere. Just make sure that it's small, so it has to fit inside the first shadow. So you can apply, for example, just to 3 petals at first. When you're first beginning, you'll have to flash cure more often, but as you get more comfortable, you could apply to the whole flower. But just for security, so we don't mess anything up, we're going to flash cure. Just about 10 seconds, and then we can go on. But you can see what a difference it makes, actually, the second shadow. So it starts to give you the intensity and the volume. So the next place we can place a darker shadow is underneath this cup shape. So I'm going to take the darker purple mix. And first separate this petal, these 2 petals from each other. And then apply color in this upper petal. And I can continue to go around. So the dark shadow in this petal is giving a highlighting effect to this petal. So I place the color, clean off my brush. Still nothing on my brush. You can push color away if you feel like you've got too much. because we want to keep this second shadow about half the size of the first shadow. And I just keep going around to each petal. Shading technique's pretty much the same. So you just have to control and you have to keep the second shadow within the first shadow. So it starts to give it the volume, starts to give it more of a three-dimensional effect. And then you just press up and down to blend. So we want to make sure that we don't drag the whole shadow out. We don't want to pull anything out. We just want to press up and down. So we're eliminating the line in between the two colors. So once we have a second shadow everywhere, we can flash cure again for about 10 seconds. I'm going to make us some color for leaves. So I'd have making waves, and the yellow color is glow like a star. Making waves. So I'll make a dark green, and then I have neon green. And just add it to a little bit of Top It Off just to dilute it. So we'll do some leaves above and below the flower. You want to make sure if you have leaves on top that you have some on the bottom, and you always want to have at least 2 leaves. So I take the mix of green and Top It Off, and I just paint a leaf shape. At least 2 different sizes and going in different directions. And if you have 2 on top for balance, you want to have some on the bottom too. Hello everybody who's just joining. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Right now I'm using Gelish Soak Off Gel Polish. So you can see once you know the shape of the petals and of the leaves, you can just paint without the sketch. So this is usually how I start. So you can either do the sketch in the beginning, or you can just paint the shape of the petals and then shade them. So we have a couple leaves. I'm going to flash cure for 10 seconds. Hello, Maria. Now I'm going to add a little bit of darker color in the leaves. So I'm going to add more blue, a little bit of brown, and mix that with my Top It Off. So I'm going to make a little bit of a shadow color, but not too dark in the beginning. And we're just going to add that to the leaves. Sorry if I went off camera. So you can just place the shadows in all the places you want them, and then do all the blending at once. But this is why I work with Top It Off, to make the blending really easy so that the colors automatically blend with each other. So you can see we have just like a olive green kind of shadow color. So once I have the shape of the shadow and the size of it and in its place, then I just clean my brush and blend it. Just touching the borders of the sides. We have to be careful not to remove the shadow completely. We just want to blend the border. And we can flash cure that. So then just like with the petals, we had a first shadow. Now we're going to do a second shadow that's darker. So I'm going to take more brown, a little bit of the neon green just to give a green color. And you can always apply, when you have really small shadows, you can apply them with the micro striper brush, and then you can press with the mini gel striper. Because sometimes the mini gel striper is too big to draw the really fine shadows. So I can always take the color, I can draw on it, I can draw it with the micro striper. Just remember to keep the second shadow within the space of the first one. And take the edge of it all the way to the edge of the petal, because it'll give a highlighting effect to the petals of the flower. And then pick up the mini gel striper and use that to press the border. They have that option too. Now I'm going to repeat the same thing for the leaves above the flower. So if you guys get a chance to try this design, I'd love to see it. You can either send it to me in a private message or you can post it to our group and tag me. I'll just clean my brush and just press up and down on the border. So now that I've got the first and the second shadow, now I'm going to mix a little bit of Arctic Freeze with Top It Off so I can create a really soft white for highlighting. You see I have Arctic Freeze and my Top It Off just a little bit. So you remember the first color, the first shading color, we did to 2/3 of the petal. Now we're going to highlight the 1/3, the upper part. So the first color we have placed to the majority of the petal. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this white mix and just go along the upper edge. So first I just apply the color and I check to see if it's bright enough. Don't worry if it looks like it's a little too soft at first, because we can always add more. So, and I just take this mix of white and Top It Off and trace around the upper edge of each petal. So it just gives a highlighting effect. But just like we had 2 shadows, we're going to have 2 levels of highlight. So this is just the first one. So we end up with a pyramid of shading and a pyramid of highlights. So I just keep going around the edge of each petal. You can use this to cover up the sketch lines, or if you want to change the shape of the petal. And since we mixed it with Top It Off, it's blending automatically. You want to make sure that the highlights don't cross over the shadows. So it's really important that they stay separate. Oh, sorry, I went out of camera. I just added the same white to the side. Before I go on, I'm going to blend these a little bit. So I'm just going to take the excess, squeegee it off my brush. Yes, Leela, but I just dry wiped it. So I didn't use cleanser. I just used a clean gel brush. So that I used the 7 square. Because we don't want to completely remove the sticky layer, but we do want to remove some of it so that the product doesn't run on the surface. So usually when I have to blend the white parts, that's when I like to use a little cleanser. So just put a drop of cleanser because it evaporates really quickly. So you don't want to put a lot in your dappen dish. So just a drop. And I just very carefully clean off my brush. Dab the excess on the towel. Let me try to zoom. And then with a brush just damp with cleanser, I just press on the border between the white and the color. I use cleanser because Arctic Freeze has a lot of pigments, so we have to make sure that we can blend it properly. So just touch up and down, don't drag the border, don't pull, none of this, just pressing up and down. Okay, and then flash cure before I do the top. And when you're working in the salon, you don't lose any time by flash curing because you just repeat the steps on the other hand. And I'm just going to add this highlighting color to this other petal in the back. Didn't get it yet. But I had to cure this first, because if I have this uncured and then I try to work here, I'll end up touching this one with the blending. So you just have to think about how close the colors are to each other to decide if you have to flash cure or not. And I'm going to try to cover the sketch with this product. I don't know if you can see it, but Facebook keeps putting these like Snapchat filters on top of the flower. Like it's a person. Okay, press up and down. Okay. Flash cure again. So now we're coming to the end, and now it's just time for a little bit of details. So I'm going to use some art form. So I have black. First, I'm going to show you how to make a purple with Essentials blue and neon pink. Oh, so it is showing, Lauren. Yeah, I don't know why it keeps putting like a cowboy hat and different things. So right on my palette, oh, as you can see here, I have to mix my Essentials blue. You can see this is like the consistency. So you do have to make sure that you stir these on a regular basis. And this is my demo one, so I haven't used it in a while. So I have my stir stick. And we're not cooking breakfast, we're just gently mixing the gel. So we're just gonna stir. Try not to mix too vigorously because you will get bubbles. But we need to mix the color a little bit. Okay. Now I can take a little bit of Essentials blue. Is that on my palette? You guys can see. Clean my brush. A little bit of neon pink. And then on one side of the line, I'm gonna do black, so I have some shadow color. And then above these two colors, I leave a space in between, and then above here, I'm gonna put white. So I'm making some shadows and highlights. And you can always save these mixes in business card holder or any kind of like covered case. So usually what I do after I'm done making a palette, I just stick it in this so that I can bring it anywhere. Okay, so I have my colors. Let me try to, I want to show you the mixing. So I start from the neon pink, and I just draw a line up and down, touch back to the blue, and you can see that it creates a really, really nice purple color. Let's see, I have a question. They didn't have any brushes. Leela, I'll send you a message because I have some brushes available. So I'll send you a message after the live. So I just go in between the pink and the blue, and I make a purple color. Then I clean my brush, and then I repeat, do a circle along this white border to make some highlighting colors. And then drag with the black to make some shades. But it's really important to have neon in your mix because this will help keep your tones vibrant, even when you use it in a very thin layer. Okay. Okay, zoom out a little bit. Sorry, I need to make a little bit more of the purple. Okay, so anytime we use our brush like a tool, we have to clean it off and clean it into the cleanser. So now I'm going to take this dark purple color, and I'm going to add the darkest shadows in the center of the flower. First, I'm just going to check the color, make sure it's intense enough, so you guys can see. And this doesn't have to go everywhere, just in the darkest places. And just like before, this third shadow has to be smaller than the second. So it has to fit inside the second shadow. If we don't do that, then we're not going to have any gradient between the colors. And since these are tiny, I can just apply it all around the flower and do all the blending at once. And anytime you get in an area that's too difficult to paint with the mini gel striper, you just pick up the micro striper and you can use that to refine more. So you can use this color to contour the petals and separate them, so you can drag out really fine lines. And as long as you're not using too big of a quantity, you don't have to worry about the sticky layer from gelish causing the product to run. If you get that, it means that you just have too much, you're trying to work with too much art form at once. Art form is really heavily pigmented, so you don't need to use much. So I'm just going around with the micro striper and separating the petals. And as I go along, I'm looking through my phone. So if I'm practicing, obviously I'm doing a live, so I want to check the camera angle, but I always look through my phone because it gives you a different view of your work, and it shows you your work in a flat surface, so you can see if your blending is good or if the colors are good. So don't be afraid to stop and use the camera on your phone to check your work. So once I apply the shadow color everywhere, I just press up and down to blend it. And at any time, you can pick up any of the other colors we've been using if you feel like you need to add it. Sometimes when you add this second shadow, it can wash everything else out. So if you feel like you need to go back and add some of your previous color, that's fine. As long as you're not working with a big quantity, you won't have to worry about anything running. So don't use too much cleanser on your brush, but the cleanser can help you with the blending too. So I'm just checking everywhere. Can add a little bit more shadow to the leaves. So we're going to leave this tutorial up on the page so you guys will have lots of time to practice. Let me know if you have any questions. So I'm going to cure this. Now we're going to fully cure the base. So we're going to do a full 30-second cure. I'm going to take a little bit of my neon green and add it to the white and top it off mix. I just want to add a little bit of neon color to the leaves. Okay. So we just use a little bit of neon just for highlighting. If you use too much, it kills the effect, but just a soft amount of neon. And I place it everywhere, clean my brush, and then press up and down and blend on the side opposite the edge. Oh, went out of camera. So here's the edge of the leaf. So I blend on this side. Here's the edge and blend here. And the blending is just to press up and down. And I'm just checking if I want to add any color before I seal everything with Top It Off. You have to make sure that your shadows are dark enough because Top It Off has kind of a lightening effect. So it will go over all of your shadows and actually soften them. So it may look really dark now in the middle, but with Top It Off, it'll be just enough. All right, so now I'm ready for the full cure. So we're going to cure it one more time for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to apply Top It Off, and I'm going to use something from the pastel colors. So this is all the art form. So I'm just going to use something light to outline the upper edge of the petals on the surface. And because art form gel paint has no sticky layer on top, we don't have to cover with anything. Thank you. Thank you, Layla. This is a watercolor effect with gel. That's what I call this technique. I've got online classes called Vivid Watercolor that are about this technique. I have an animal edition and flower edition. Some more. So I have 4-hour online courses on this technique and others. This is another one from the animal edition. So it's Vivid Watercolor. That's what I call it. But basically it's gel polish painting. but I use Top It Off to dilute the color, so it gives us similar to a watercolor effect. So now we've fully cured. Now I'm going to cover with Top It Off. And you'll see that Top It Off softens everything because you're covering it. So it's really important when you're doing your painting that your shadows are dark enough so that it makes up for this lightening effect of putting top coat. It levels the surface, and we cure that for 30 seconds. So let me know in the comments if you find this tutorial useful and if you're going to practice the flower. So I'd love to know if you guys are going to try it. So I have to cure Top It Off for 30 seconds. Then I'm going to use cleanser. Wipe off the sticky layer. So just a little bit of cleanser on the lint-free wipe. Laura, for this would probably take 15 minutes, so it would be $15 extra. So I clean off the sticky layer. And then without letting the client touch anything or contaminating the surface, we have to immediately come in with the art form and paint our light contour lines along the surface. As long as there's no oils or nothing came in contact with the surface from the time you cleansed it till the time you do your design, your art form, these contour lines on the top will stay for 3 or 4 weeks. But if they touch their hair or they wash their hands or they do something after you cleanse the top coat, you have to cover this painting with top coat again. So I'm just using my micro striper brush, and because I just need a tiny amount, I'm using my glove kind of like a palette. So I just have almost no paint. And I'm just repeating the upper edge of a few petals. So I always intensify the center. And I'm not using pure white. I'm just using something from the pastel colors in my mix. So we want to try to do a color that is similar to the color of the petal, but maybe a little bit lighter just so it's visible. So we just drag a very fine line. Try to follow the shape of the contour perfectly, best you can. Just make sure that you don't have a big bead of paint on the end of your brush, just a really small amount. I just did a couple little lines for the first 3 petals. Anytime you can take a bigger brush with cleanser, and you can clean these lines off the surface before you cure. So for example, that one ended up a little bit thick. So you can take your brush and you can wipe it off. You could try to clean it off, but that wasn't working. So I'm just wipe it off and I'm going to do it again. See, when your lines are close together, it's easy to touch them. So you have to be careful when you're working in tight spaces like this. How do I do it again? Okay. And I just keep going around. So you can change the color. So I have all the way from purple to like really pale pink. So you can vary the color a little bit. But these lines in the end give a lot of definition to your design and give a crisp edge. So usually you don't talk when you pull the line, then you can breathe and talk again. So I just go around and I just paint the upper edge. So you can see these two petals, the separation's not all that visible. So I take the pastel color, and it separates them. So now you can see that one's above and one's below. And the petals on the outer edge, you can contour them with a slightly darker color. Okay, and now we just have the leaves. The leaves I can use pure white. And just the outer edge. So there's two leaves on both sides of the flower. And there. And I have on the bottom and above. So you can see these lines on the surface of the Top It Off, give it a three-dimensional effect. Now, when I do these lines on the surface and I'm not going to cover them, I cure for 60 seconds just to make sure it adheres really well. So we're going to cure for 1 minute. I'm going to bring the colors close to the camera so you guys can see it again. So the art form's here, and the gelish is here, what I used. So basically purple tones and a leaf color. But you can use this technique with neon yellow or oranges. You can do the sunflower, or you can use more neon pink, or you can just do leaves. This lotus flower, I started by painting it white and just using neon pink and neon yellow and making a little neon orange too. So this is good for summer. So just waiting for the last bit to cure. Okay, so after 1 minute, now our design's ready. So again, we don't have to cleanse. You can see you can do it in different sizes with different colors. So I hope you enjoyed everything and found it useful. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you very much for watching. Have a good rest of your day. In Australia, it's just the morning, so hope you get a chance to practice, or if not, you'll practice soon. And good evening to everybody in the States, and good night if anybody's from Europe. So have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here and for your attention. And I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.